Hey guys, welcome back. Mindy here. So, you're probably watching this because Apple marketed Apple Watch Family Setup as a way that you can finally use the Apple Watch without an iPhone. And you're here either as a concerned parent or because you're thinking of all the possibilities that this could mean. But for those of you who don't know, Family Setup is part of the new watchOS 7 and it was announced during Apple's September event last month along with the new Apple Watches. With this, you can use the Apple Watch without an iPhone to make phone calls, send messages, share locations, etc. But for this to work, you need a cellular Apple Watch plus a friend's or a family member's iPhone. Important, the iPhone has to be a 6S or later, and the watch has to be a Series 4 or later. So let's go through what you can and cannot do on the Apple Watch with the Family Setup, and if you think you like it and you want to go ahead with it, I will talk you through the entire process of how to set up the Apple Watch using Family Setup. With Family Setup, the watch is still able to track your workouts, check your heart rate, use iMessage, make FaceTime audio calls, check your calendar and emails, listen to music but only from Apple Music, create watch faces, create memojis, and for payment methods, you can turn on the Ask to Buy, which is basically asking for permission to buy an app, and you can turn on the Apple Cash, which allows you to send and receive money on iMessage to pay with Apple Pay. But this is only available in the States. You can also set up school time, which allows you to create multiple schedules, including breaks. And during school time, the Apple Watch will block apps and complications and turns on the Do Not Disturb. But emergency calls can break through. You can also use the new hand washing feature, noise and sound level alert. You have access to photos using shared album, and walkie-talkie works. What Apple did not go into details in during the event was the limitations that came with Family Setup. A lot of the key features that Apple Watch is well known for are sadly unavailable. All of these features telling you when your heartbeat is too high? Nope. Measuring ECG like what this guy is doing?
It already does that.
It already does that? Well, that is a hard no. Wow, the Apple Watch helps you track your menstrual cycle? Nope. It switches off your lights? Nope. Not with Watch Family Setup. And this, or this, or this, or this, or wireless Apple Pay payment? You get the point. Nope. And when I saw that disclaimer on Apple's website, I was a bit mind blown, kind of. I thought that Apple Pay would have been such a nice thing to have. Cycle tracking, I mean, why not? Irregular heart rhythm notifications and ECG, aren't they super important if you're marketing this Family Setup to elderlies? But I also understand these features mentioned are the features that work hand in hand very well with the iPhone's health app. So it makes sense that if you don't own an iPhone, you don't have those features. But still, my argument stands. It would have been nice if Apple somehow found a way to make these features available on the Apple Watch Family Setup. Besides this, I'm sure you guys have other questions about Family Setup because I had those questions as well. And here's what I found. Firstly, is there privacy for individuals using Family Setup? Yes, there is. If you're the organizer and you're managing all the other watches and you want to gain access to private information like health details or location tracking, you will actually need to request for permission. And the person with the watch has to grant you that permission on the watch. Also, for people who are managing other people's watches in the Watch app, there are actually very few controls you have. Like you cannot read their iMessages, you cannot have access to their contacts. So information like this is private. For school time, yes, you can set school time without asking for permission, although I feel like that's some kind of breach of trust. Like I feel like when you set limitations, you need to have a discussion with your kid. The person with the watch can get out of school time mode simply by turning the watch down, but the watch manager will be notified when you do that. However, If the watch is offline, the watch manager will not be able to change any of these settings. Can you download third-party apps in the Watch App Store? That is a solid no. Unfortunately, for most apps, you need an iPhone to work, and since you are set up using Family Setup, so in a sense you don't have your own phone, and hence most of the third-party apps you are unable to download. It will basically be grayed out and it states there, need iPhone. Yep. Sadly, apps like Telegram, WeChat, Spotify, Messenger, these apps you can't download on the Apple Watch that was set up using Family Setup. Essentially, if you want to listen to music, you can only use Apple Music and you need a subscription for that. So what are the rare third-party apps that you can download? Well, we actually found that this classical music app was able to be downloaded, so that's that. For emails and calendars, can you access them? Well, sort of, you can, but you can only access your iCloud email and the calendar saved in your iCloud. If you use Gmail or any other, you can't actually use the email app or the calendar app. Nothing will be synced. If you don't have any cellular plans for the watch, you can tap on Wi-Fi, although sometimes public Wi-Fi may have some kind of privacy issues and the watch simply cannot connect to them. Can Android users use the Apple Watch? Well, traditionally, you could never ever do that, but with Family Setup, you can, sort of, but with all the limitations that I mentioned before. To take this question deeper, can you actually borrow a spare iPhone from a friend to set up the watch as an independent device and then return and reformat the iPhone and use the Apple Watch to its maximum capabilities? Nope. Yeah, I know that was a very, very specific example, but nope, you cannot do that. You need an iPhone for everything to work. Every Apple Watch is basically paired to an iPhone, and you need the iPhone in order to receive texts, notifications. So without the iPhone, you can probably use it to a certain extent, but you can't use all the features. So who is Family Setup for? I think Family Setup is targeted at kids who are old enough to own some sort of smart device but not old enough to own a smartphone. Parents can feel safer knowing where their kids are using location tracking, and they can contact their kids using iMessage or FaceTime audio calls. And getting your kid an Apple Watch is definitely cheaper than getting them an iPhone. Plus, the subscription plan for cellular services is cheaper for a watch than for a phone. Is the Family Setup good for adults, like your close friends, spouses, partners? Well, yes, sure, but if you do that, you wouldn't be maximizing the full capability of the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch would basically be reduced into a fitness tracking smartwatch with some additional features. And hence, I would not recommend this to any adults unless you're someone who don't care about all the other extra features and you just want the watch for tracking fitness. Then is this good for elderly? Sure, but I think it's for a specific group of elderly. I mean, these days, I think a lot of older folks are kind of tech savvy and already do have a phone. And for older folks who don't know how to use a phone, they probably wouldn't want to learn how to use a watch either. And I don't think they want to squint their eyes on this small surface, on this small screen to learn how things work. So for a certain group of older folks, I think the watch would be used as sort of a tracking device to notify your family members of your well-being. There is fall detection and emergency SOS in the Family Setup. And finally, here's the step-by-step walkthrough for Family Setup. First, turn on the watch, then bring an iPhone near it, remember 6S or later, and select Setup for a family member. Hold your iPhone over the animation on the watch and scan it. And note, if this is not a cellular watch, you cannot move past this step, and your phone will tell you that you need a cellular watch for this to happen. Next, there's a few terms and conditions. You click agree, then you choose the preferred text size for the watch. Then you set a passcode to keep it secure. For example, 1234, which is not super secure, but moving on. Next, you choose the family member whom you're setting this watch up for, and then you sign in to their Apple ID. Next, you can choose to share location now or set it up later. And it takes some time to set up. And next, you can choose to restore from backup or set up as a new watch, which is what I'm doing. Next, we see the cellular setup page. You don't really need this to set up the watch, but if you don't have cellular, you can't use certain features like making phone calls when you're without Wi-Fi. Next, we set up the Wi-Fi. Then we choose to disable or enable location services. Then to enable or disable Siri. And next, we have watch analytics. I usually choose not to share, but it's up to you. Next, allow messages from iCloud. And following that, we have health data. If both parties chooses to share health data, you can view the health data in the health app. And if you request to share health data, the person with the watch has to grant you the permission on the watch in order for this sharing to work. Next, emergency SOS. With this, you can add emergency contacts and you can allow medical ID to be accessed by pressing the side button. Next, you can choose to share medical ID during the emergency call. And next, activity. On this page, you key in your age and a few other details, and by this page, whether you're an adult, a child, or elderly, the watch knows. Moving on, we set our daily move goal, exercise goals, stand goals, and whether to allow workout route tracking or not. Next, you can choose to add photos to the watch only by sharing a photo album. Next, contacts. You can add or manage contacts on iCloud.com, and ding, it's done. Anything else that you want to change or set up, you can do it in the watch app on the phone. Final thoughts. Well, it's dark outside. But okay, so why is Apple doing this? Why did Apple make or create this thing called Family Setup? I think undoubtedly the Apple Watch is one of the most popular Apple Watches out there in the market, and it works really well. It integrates really well with your phone, with the entire Apple ecosystem, so it's really, really well sought after. I think Family Setup is probably one of Apple's strategy to get people into the Apple ecosystem. For instance, that young kid who uses the Apple Watch with Family Setup, they would probably eventually get into the Apple ecosystem, own an iPhone, and eventually remain a long-term customer of Apple. For Android users who want an Apple Watch, well, in the past it was totally impossible, but now with Family Setup, you sort of can, but with a lot of limitations. And the many restrictions might eventually tempt the Android user to convert to using an iPhone just to enjoy the full benefits of the Apple Watch. I know that's far-stretched, but it might be possible. I think Apple is slowly opening up, but don't get me wrong, their ecosystem is still really tight and really solid, to be honest. They're working with partners to make Apple TV and AirPlay 2 available in newer TVs, and now this Family Setup. So you can see Apple is slowly opening up, but not by a lot. And will it open up even more? I don't think so, at least not in the near future. But yep, that's been it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this or found this helpful. Leave me a comment if you have any other questions and I'll get back to you ASAP. But for now, I'll see you guys in my next video. Stay maintained, Goodbye.